Number one is don't publish a podcast right away if you don't know if it's for you. Clearly, you want charisma, but depending on what your show is about or the audience that you're trying to build, you might not really need it. You might just be so informational and so good at letting people understand what's going on that that's all it takes. I love that question. It's so good. I would say consistency just from the standpoint of, again, everybody's out there. There's a million different things. You need to be clockwork. You need to be reliable because there's just too much going on and people will forget about you.
That could be education in and of itself. That could be a master in business just by itself.
If they just had the right opportunity to do it, it could actually help them and make their lives better. And though I don't know if it's imitation as much as inspiration, right? I think that's the way to think about it is...
Vince, there are approximately 2.8 million podcasts. 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3. Only 1% make it beyond 20 episodes. Now add to that the top 10 podcasts account for 30% of total listeners, and the top 100 podcasts account for 50% of total listeners. Then a newbie has to compete with the likes of Joe Rogan and Stephen Bartlett that not only have fame, money and teams behind them, but also have that familiarity and trust in people's minds, which makes them very loyal listeners. And that's hard to break. Why would anyone in the right mind even take the chance to start a podcast nowadays?
I love that question. It's so good. Because not everything is covered the way that it can be. You know what I mean? Like there's so many, you think about all the people on the planet, all the towns that they live in, all the different interests that people have. And when you put all of that together, there's always a space that's not being covered. And so or it's not covered well. And that's part of it too, right? Like it's not this specific voice within this niche. Like Joe Rogan, obviously, when you get to politics, that's considered right. But then there's a lot of people on the left, and there's different grades of being right and different grades of being left and centrist. And, so there's a million ways to look at it, and everybody's got unique perspective, and it's worth giving it a shot because it's low cost to do up front. And it's something that if you put the proper process into it, it's not going to bury you in work. And I think that's the biggest issue, right? Is so many people start these things and they're like, oh, it's a podcast. This will be easy. I just need to talk for an hour. And like you're shaking your head and laughing because like it's hard work, man. It's hard work. So I think that's why people get so rerouted by it all the time and quit so quickly. But the allure of it is strong because it's like, wow, I can build a real community with people that care about the same things as me, and we can talk about these issues and like grow and build something here. And that's really exciting and cool.
Yeah, exactly. I like how you said 1 hour there. Like, who takes 1 hour for the podcast? It takes me the whole day. My whole day off is just preparing, doing the podcast, editing the video when I'm by myself. It's not easy work, but it's definitely fulfilling. And to those who really want to start a podcast but doubt that they have anything interesting to say, remember that about 500 million global listeners, and that number is rising because less and less people are watching TV. It's very possible you will find someone that will resonate with your ideas, or someone that will just like you for your personality because to them you're funny, you're stoic, you ask great questions, or you have so much knowledge and enthusiasm for your niche that makes you the best person to talk about it. And you can always stop doing it if you don't like it, but it can change your life. Speaking of which, are there any great cases that you know that people have changed their lives through podcasting?
Yeah, so for me, because I've been running this now for about 5 years, I've been running my business and helping people out. And the whole thing is my show is helping business owners with their shows. So for me, the real change has been, am I helping a business grow? Right. And the cool thing is, for example, I'm working with a show right now and they are in the middle of their second season. So they're putting episodes out as we speak. Nice. And these guys are in internal HR and communication. So they help all these, people that work in these big companies that need to manage all the different hirings and firings. And hey, we've got changes to this policy and that. And they started a podcast about that work. And what they did that's really interesting is they partnered with a conference that also talks about these kinds of issues. So now these guys have been able to promote their business through the show, but also use that show as a vehicle to be on stage at all of these conferences, which this one event happens in multiple places around the country. So they get to show up at these different locations and show themselves off to all of these people, and how much easier it's been for them to land deals because they've built trust and been able to do that in this public facing way on stage in front of these people, but to also say, hey, we have a podcast that talks about this too, and to keep those relationships. Like, that's been huge for them. So building those kinds of things, like, that's the win for me. And I think even going back to things like why do this? Well, I mean, they might be, who knows, they could be the 200th highest HR podcast in terms of downloads, right? But they're on stage, they're landing clients, their lives are better. And so it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, are you selling more? Are you getting more out of what you need from the show for your business? And as long as it's doing those things, it really doesn't matter at all.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing exposure because, for example, when you're trying to pitch a sale, you are coming from, oh, I'm trying to sell you something, obviously. But when you are in a 3-hour podcast talking about the idea with an expert or with your friend or with whoever, and a potential buyer listens to you, they buy because of who you are, because of your ideas, and not because of the pitch. You're not even pitching them, yet they want to buy the product, yet they want to work with you because they saw who you really are, and people buy from people. So definitely I can see how it can help you out in different ways. That being said, do you think a podcast works better as a front for a business, in a way, as a business model, or the podcast itself is the business?
So yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is, and especially, I've gone this route because starting an entertainment show from scratch where your whole thing is, hey, you just want to be famous and get sponsors and do all of that stuff, it is incredibly hard. And all of those spaces where you have these big audiences, right? Like sports and movies and certain television shows and politics and all this other stuff that's out there, the people that, the true crime for podcasting, like all these places that people want to go to. There are a ton of shows out there that are established from bigger names that have marketing budgets. They're paired with networks. Like, you're fighting so much to build it, and it takes a long time to do that. So what does it take for a show that's like that has this passion, that has this thing that they want to rally behind, but at the same time needs to find their own space in that broader community, establish that they're a unique voice, or at least a more compelling voice, and do that consistently, to get the show out all the time, to show up at different events, or I don't know, get the right guests on, and like, build all these things up where people do actually care and say, with all the choices in this space, I'm going to choose you. To build that brand is incredibly difficult. So, I mean, to do that and then make money on it, because sponsor rates aren't great either. I mean, you have to get an insane amount of downloads to get like real money on a podcast that makes it feel like it's worth it.
What would those numbers look like, for example?
So CPM, right? It's per 1,000 downloads. So for every 1,000 downloads, you're going to get, let's say, and I'll reset this for a second from the standpoint of, let's say I'm going to advertise on a podcast. So I'm an advertiser. I'm going to sponsor your show. I'm sponsoring this show right here, right now. Let's say you're getting 1,000 downloads. So the ad agency might charge me $18 per 1,000 listeners that hear my advertisement. So if literally everybody that's subscribed, all of your downloads that you get, they all listen to this show, I'm paying the agency $18, which means they're taking some of that money, and you're getting whatever else passes through that. That's for 1,000 downloads. Like, you know what I mean? 10,000 downloads. So if you're making $12 and you have 10,000 downloads, you're getting $120. Like, is that a game changer for you?
That's
like
nothing.
Right. So that's the thing. It's like, there's so much more to it, and it's so much more work, and you have to pile a lot of things together to really make money in that way. You're getting multiple sponsors. You need somebody to go and hunt those sponsors for you, right? Like, how do you go about and build those things? So, that's the hard side of it, and that's why it's been so much better and simpler. Because especially for me, I'm a business too. Like, I got to live making podcasts for people. You know what I mean? So what's a sustainable business model? Well, it's, hey, I'm going to work with people who have a business, so they have a budget, they are selling something, they do have money coming in the door, and then I can get all of these things, principles from the entertainment side. Hey, what's a compelling take that you can have that gets people's attention, and what's the right way to interview people and stuff like that. Like, I can apply those things to business people and help them grow their business. So yeah, I mean, if you're at a fork in the road where it's, I can be as a business owner, I can either do something that backs my business and really supports my marketing and do it that way, or I can do this different side project and build that up and try to be famous and build something that way. Go for your business. I mean, easier path, way higher results, faster. And I just really think it's the way to go.
Nice, nice. And going back to those statistics, what makes podcasting so challenging so that 90% of people can film past episode 3? Is it really the logistics of it? Because I've made it past episode 3 and it wasn't that hard. Or is it just the limited beliefs and narratives people tell themselves about success?
Yeah, so I think there's two particular things, because it's a great question. First off, it's a great question. So here's one of the things is people go into it with the wrong beliefs, which is I'm going to start the show. I am going to get sponsors. I'm going to get sponsors basically right away. And so I'm going to be making money and I'm going to get all these downloads and everything's going to be great. And then they put the show out and they don't have an audience already. So they don't have a big following on social media. They're not a big name. They're not a well-established brand. They don't have a PR agency. You know what I mean? Like they just put it out and they get 4 downloads and they're like, oh, okay, this
humbled.
Yeah, so I think that's shock to the system of like, oh, it's not so easy for me to just suddenly get 500 people to listen to my podcast. Like there's an arrogance, but it's also because they just don't know any better. Like people aren't given that blueprint before they get started. They just see shows out there and think, oh, well, I can do it. I'm interesting at parties. Like I'm going to go for it. So I think it's a reality check as part of it. And then when you get to all the other work, I think the biggest problem is people don't give themselves a lead. They don't give themselves time to breathe when they do this work. And it's usually, I'm going to record on Monday and I'm going to work on it all day Monday and then I'm going to post it on Tuesday. And it's like, no. You could record 3 episodes on Monday and you could have the next 3 weeks ready to go. And then you don't have to go, oh my God, I need this thing right now. I need this guest canceled on me. I don't have a show. I'm not going to post this week. Like all those kinds of problems that people get into, they just don't know any better. Again, they don't have the experience with it. They don't have the practice with it. And so when you're editing audio, video, you're uploading all these things, trying to get the posts, and only 4 people are downloading it, and you feel like it's all this extra stress in your life, like, of course you quit. Of course you quit. It's not worth it. So, yeah, I think people just get a real reality check.
Yeah, no, I agree. And comparatively, 20% of businesses fail within the first year, but 90% of podcasts can make it to 3 episodes a week. That's just a 3-week lifespan. They cannot go past that. And so statistically then it's easier to fail while podcasting than starting a brick and mortar store. And the reason behind it, I think, is, as you said in the beginning, is that the cost to entry is so little that you don't have a lot you don't have skin in the game. You don't have something invested actually. So it's easy to walk away from because you don't have employees. You don't have hundreds of thousands of a 5-year contract at least for the building. So I think that cost to entry is at the same time very liberating to be able to have it as anyone can start a podcast from the bedroom, literally me behind me. Then, but at the same time, that's what gives you this illusion of I can make it because it's easy, but it's not.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard work. And that is the interesting thing too, right? Of it's so easy to get started. And I really think I love that people try it. I encourage anybody that wants to try it to try it. But my whole thing is don't go public with your first episode just because you recorded it. Like record 5. See if you can do 5 and if you feel good about it and the amount of work, and have friends listen to it before you put it out. And you know what I mean? Like people go all in on, I've decided I'm going to do a podcast, which means I do have a podcast and everybody needs to know about it. And it's like, you know what? You can record an episode on Zoom and listen back to it and never tell a soul about it and go, you know what? This kind of sucks. It's not for me. I'm out. Like that's okay. But I think everybody always feels like, oh, podcast, it has to be live. And even though it's their first try doing it, they make it public. And again, they just don't have a blueprint for that. So like, it's really sad that it happens, but it happens all the time.
Yeah. And same like every other industry, people see the top 1% and wonder, wouldn't it be nice if I was them? Imagine if I was Joe Rogan or Chris Williamson and I have millions of followers, life would be amazing. Meanwhile, these podcasters are like every other successful person in this world, constantly working on the business, constantly reading, doing meeties, staying fit. There is no crazy leisure time for them or any behind any of the top 1% people look up to. So I think people's expectations are completely messed up when thinking about becoming content creators and then successful ones for that matter too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, people just have no idea. And again, they take it for granted because the whole thing is, oh, well, they're just posting a silly video on TikTok. I can do that. And I mean, go ahead. Go ahead and
Yeah,
try
good
because
luck.
everybody is, right? Like everybody's trying to be famous on these different platforms. They're all trying to get attention and you're competing with everything. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but the number of people that I know, like friends of mine that have an Instagram account for their dog. So it's not just that you're competing with like every influencer on the planet and everybody that you know that's just posting casually and socially and whatever. Like everything has its own account these days, and you
Hmm.
are fighting all of those things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a crazy battle, and people just really have no, I don't know, no appreciation for it.
And you're fighting things that are naturally more easy to gravitate towards, such as oh, cute baby accounts, oh, cute dog accounts, oh, beautiful woman doing random meaningless dances on TikTok who take 500 million views for you're like, why, just why? So you're competing with things that are low effort and you think, oh, it must be low effort as well. But if you go into podcasting and you speak about, well, anything serious, that's a job. That's, you suddenly need to not be an expert, but you need research and you need to be articulate and you need to make, you need to speak well. There's so many things behind podcasting. It's not just, as you just said, upload and finish.
Yeah, the amount of prep work that goes into doing a good show is crazy, and people just, yeah, they just don't do it. They just show up. I mean, here's how crazy it is. Okay, I thought this was the most insane thing. I saw it literally this morning. So
All right.
I was reading Pod News, the newsletter for Pod News, and they had a blurb in there about this new platform that was coming out, and it basically said that if you want to get research for a guest, this AI program will look up your guest and give you an idea of questions that you can ask that guest.
Mm-hmm.
But they sold it in the way of, so if you're one of those podcast hosts who really doesn't care about the guests that they have on, which was like, how are you running a show, right? Like it's an insane thing to say as your advertisement. Like this is the appeal. Hey, are you a podcast host who really doesn't care about who you talk to? Well, then you should have AI come up with your notes for your
Fucking hell.
uninspired interview with someone you don't care about. Like it was crazy to me. But that's how people treat this, and that's why
Yeah.
so many shows do die out, that nobody
Yeah.
listens to them even if they go on for 5 years, because they're not putting in the work.
Yeah.
They're not actually interested, and they're not generating a conversation that actually gets you to where you make an impact as somebody, where you go like,
Yeah.
wow, that's a great point. This changed my perspective. This changed how I do this or that. Like that's the whole game.
They're just looking for shortcuts. Same as I spend a lot of time on X. There's so many AI replies, automated AI replies, and they're shit and they're soulless. And it's like, oh, you're trying to amass a following by posting non-stop with an AI that is soulless, and your content is bland and is one-liners. Okay, so what? You got 5,000 followers now. Is other bots following you? It's meaningless. The whole thing is like, what's the point? It's just stupid. It's just why? It's just people want the fame, but they don't want to put in the work. That's
Yeah,
it.
the work is everything. I mean, there's smart ways to go about the work, right? But
Sure, yeah.
and like, hey, there's smart ways to use AI to make your life easier and to help make content and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, when it's junk and you're not actively putting any personality or originality into it, and so Chat GPT, like not even custom Chat GPT, base level Chat GPT is writing your articles for you. I mean, you literally sound like everybody else by default because
Yeah.
that's what you've put into the system. It's outrageous, man. And that's all it is out there. There's so much of that. And the more you see it, the easier it is to tell. And it's just like you clearly don't care about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there is also so much advice out there. Be yourself, but don't copy others. Yet there is a trend going on, and you need to copy the trend if you want to stay relevant. And then copy the thumbnails of the successful YouTubers, but also have your own thumbnails because you want to be unique. What do you think is the best advice for a small podcast? What ratio of authenticity to imitation should they maintain?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's imitation as much as inspiration, right? I think that's the
Yeah.
way to think about it is how can I take something that somebody is doing that I like and they're doing it well, and how can I incorporate that into what I do? Because I think about, for example, and I just had a newsletter about this the other day, like stand-up comedians, for example, right? If you're a content creator, the whole thing is you want to make a point to a broad audience and you want them to understand what you're talking about right away. So comedians, guys like Chris Rock, for example, is amazing because whenever he's got a bit, he says what that main point is like 15 times in 10 minutes. And he'll, from a content standpoint, it would just be like, you need to be consistent with your content. People are, they forget how to post all these episodes because they're too busy going to lunch instead of recording. You need to be consistent with your episodes, right? Like to be able to hammer that kind of stuff, it's like, oh, he's really doing a great job of delivering this way. Can I incorporate that into the way that I host? Or here is this YouTuber that has great thumbnails. How can I use that inspiration stylistically to apply to me and what my content is? So yeah, and that's the cool thing too, is I think you can take inspiration because so much of this is connected. TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, newsletters, podcasts, like it's all the same principles for ultimately the same goal. You want to build a relationship with people, you want to build trust with them, and you want them coming back. So who are people literally anywhere that inspire you, that you think are doing it right, and just try stuff. Take risks is really the biggest thing. Do it. Try those things for a couple of thumbnails. Try it for 3 months. If it doesn't work, no problem. Find something else. Tweak the thing a little bit further and see where it goes. But yeah, I think people should do that all the time. Is try to find their own way to embrace things that other people have done really well.
And it only takes one. You're gonna fail 1,000 or 1,000,000, but it only takes one, and that one can set you up for forever, maybe, or So if you don't try, you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of the 1,000 true fans theory thing? Is it realistic or is it just wishful thinking? Because the way I view it, in order for you to get 1,000 true fans, you need to have an audience of 100K followers, from which whatever 10% or whatever 1%, whatever 1,000 of 100K is, they become your core fans. So is it a dream of having only 1,000 true fans possible with a small following?
Well, I guess it depends on what kind of lane that you're in, right? Because if you're doing stuff that is broad audience and pop culture and solely entertainment, then it's a lot easier to get that number of people. Because and I think that's the major key distinction with a lot of this. I mean, some of the people I did, like my show is so niche that I expect 99% of the planet, if not more, to not give a shit about my show. They shouldn't care. Like I'm helping business owners with their podcasts. That is so niche. So I know that, like, if I get 1,000 followers, 1,000 diehard fans, I'm killing it. Like, and for me, I'm doing this to get clients, right? So I want to show people I know what I'm talking about. I want to get better as a podcaster because I want to bring people on that do things that can help me as a business owner, as a podcaster, and tie all that together. And if I can help other people do that along the way, then yeah, they're going to see that and they're going to want to work with me. So, I mean, for me, I don't even need 1,000. I probably need like 50. If I have 50 diehards, man, I'm set for life. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's the differences in approach too, because I'm nailing such a small thing for such a specific reason that I don't need 1,000 people that absolutely love me. Would it be great? Yeah. And it's definitely a goal to work towards, but it's not my primary concern. I'm just trying to bring in more business. And so, yeah, I mean, from the entertainment side though, hey, if you're talking about music and certain genres within music, you're talking about movies, you're talking about television, you're talking about politics, like, yeah, you damn well better be able to get 1,000 people. Like, if you're fighting to be one of the best, then yeah, you're in competition and you've got to find ways to get listeners from other shows and get them to stop listening to those shows so they listen to you.
Well, that takes a lot of charisma, doesn't it? A lot of hard work. Yesterday, I replied to one of Joe Rogan's episodes. It was with Douglas Murray and Dave Smith. Yesterday's episodes, I think. I accidentally replied with my podcast account. Oh, I didn't think of it. And right away, I got like 5 or 10 subscribers. I was like, oh look, these are right. It happened right away. These are people from Rogan that checked out the account because it was the name of the podcast, and then they subscribed right away. So in a way, of course, obviously, I didn't steal them from Joe because he's Joe. But in a way, yeah, it just reminded me how you can take other people's audience and make it your own, and yeah, that's one way to go about it.
Which is a great one, and actually something I haven't done, and now something that I should do, because we've been see like, and that's what I love about all of this. That's why I love going on shows and bringing people on mine and all that kind of deal. Because like for me, I've been so recently. My strategy's been okay. First, we need to make a ton of content, right? So we're doing
Mhm.
the show, we're getting the clips, we're getting the newsletters, we're doing that consistently. Multiple clips a week, newsletter and podcast every week, audio and video. So we're a machine of content. And from there, then it was like, okay, now I need to engage with a lot of people. So I'm active on LinkedIn. That's the main one that I've locked in on because I'm trying to talk with business professionals. And so I'm commenting on stuff. I'm doing extra posts beyond the clips to really fill it out and being busy there. I'm in Slack groups for all these different networking groups and I'm active there. So I've been hustling all of those things. But I've been looking at my YouTube channel recently and it's been kind of flat, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what are the things I can do to start growing it? And you know what? I haven't commented on anything. Like
Yeah.
I haven't worked that into my routine yet, but that makes so much sense. I'm glad you got following like that. And that's totally the game, right? It's because you now inserted yourself into a space where things that you talk about are going to be relevant to that audience. And those people who did not know you before now know that you exist. And
Mhm.
that's the biggest challenge, is just letting people know you exist. And if you're doing that consistently and finding ways to get in front of people who didn't know you and now they do, then as long as your stuff's good enough, eventually enough people will come by to get you where you need to be.
And not only you are replying to anyone, you're replying to people who you want the audience to be your audience. For example, on X, I only have like 200 followers because I started recently, but I got most of them by replying to Jordan Peterson posts. And well, his audience is either well educated, curious, smart, they have a propensity towards great ideas. And I made a couple great replies, not just, random replies. And when, oh, 70,000 views for the first time and so many people follow me, it's like, okay, so that's the game. You go and comment on people who you look up to because you want the audience to be your audience. So yeah, it makes absolutely sense.
Yeah, no, that's awesome that it's working out for you. Yeah, keep doing that as much as you can, man, because
Yeah.
it is such a real thing when you're getting into these comments and you are providing real, legitimate, thoughtful value to
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
People see it and they do respond, and it's such a good feeling to be like, oh yeah, I've actually touched on something that people care about. It's connected with them, and now they're literally sending connection requests. Like that's
Mhm.
everything. And so yeah, I love that that's working for you. That's awesome.
What do you think about niching down versus going broad? Is one strategy better than the other at different stages of your journey? And if yes, how do you recommend people go about it?
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because for me, with all the businesses that I work with, I talk about niching down a lot. And I think it's really
Mhm.
important because you're not talking to everybody. Like for me to do the show, but like I said with my show, right? I'm talking about podcast production, the right ways to run a show for a business. So 99% of people don't care. I'm not talking to them. So they don't matter to me. It's just for the people who are in that space. I want to give them as good a show as they can possibly get. And where it might change is, let's say I think certain problems are the things that people want to hear about, and maybe they're not. So I might have to adjust. As much as I've got the right niche, I don't exactly have the right messaging for that niche.
Hmm.
That's a big deal. You know what I mean? That's the kinds
Yeah.
of pivoting that I'm doing within the space. Like I just went back and checked out one of my episodes from maybe 3 weeks ago, and it did better than everything else I've put out. So it was, what is that topic? Oh, it was about time management for a podcast because people get slammed with production and they quit. So I was like, oh,
Right.
okay, people want to hear more about that. So that's good to know. But I made that note last night. So yeah, that's, I think so. From the niche side, that's it. But if you're an entertainment show, and that's the thing, like if your thing is, I'm doing this thing that I want to get millions of viewers on, then how is it as accessible as it can possibly be, but also have personality to it? So from that standpoint, you want to do things like, oh God, what is the guy's name? John Ushai, YouTuber and he used to work with YouTube, and he's got a Discord community and all this different stuff. I watched him speak once, and he had this whole point of the very first slide that people look at, like your thumbnail, or when they watch a video, the first second literally that they see on the screen. Can people understand, at least to a good degree, what the video is about? And if they can do that, they're more likely to stay, because they don't have to guess, they don't have to figure it out. And the example he gave, just to like illustrate it a little bit. So it was this video where he's on the street and he's got pictures of two different celebrities in his hand. So let's say, I don't know, it's Brad Pitt on the right and it's LeBron James in the left. And there's a 0 under Brad Pitt and there's a 1 under LeBron. It's like, okay, well, he's on the street, he's talking to a stranger, and he's trying to identify if they know Brad Pitt or LeBron, or he's pitting these two against each other and there's a score. Yeah. So to see that in literally the initial shot has that text in it and has that framing, people are going to stay. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And it makes all the sense in the world. So like, that's that broad approach, and that's also entertaining and specific. So it's like, it's a little rambly. I know I'm running on a bit here, but like, man, it's just it's a very layered thing. I feel like you could talk about that alone, that question, for like 5 hours.
Certainly. All right, Vince. So I will give you 5 aspects of what makes a good podcast, and I want you to rank them from the least important to the most important.
Love it.
All right. So we have charisma, consistency, storytelling, content, and marketing. So charisma, which is authenticity, being likable; consistency, years of iteration, volume, etc. Storytelling, just storytelling. Content, which is everything from the quality of editing, lighting, video, the writing, and then marketing, which is just distribution, being seen, bringing on big guests. So how would you rank them from the least to the most?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So first off, I would say consistency, just from the standpoint of, again, everybody's out there. There's a million different things. You need to be clockwork. You need to be reliable, because there's just too much going on and people will forget about you. So if you're not putting stuff out all the time, you're just going to lose out. It's just a basic fact.
So that's number 5, consistency.
I would say that's number 1. Oh, if we're on 5 to 1. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm starting at 1 here.
Let's go. 1.
I've skipped the rules, the showmanship. So yeah, number 1 for me is consistency. Number 2 would be storytelling, because you need to have that way to connect. That's what people want. That's how every platform works. Anybody that's a successful creator, you're telling some sort of story. So storytelling is 2. Number 3, I'm trying to remember all of these things, because I've got I know marketing is on there, charisma, and what else? And
content.
what else? Content. All right.
The content itself.
Got you. Okay. So I would say content is there. Content is 3. And if part of that is the production too, because I think part of it is people are more willing to forgive lesser production because it's authentic and they're used to seeing it all the time. It's natural. Like if this was 15 years ago, production mattered and it really separated you, and you could actually get away with, if your production was so good, people were more willing to forgive the bad show, the bad content, because the production was amazing. So there was value to that. But now, I mean, everybody's just so swimming in content that, they want that connection with something that feels real. So content would be 3. I would say marketing is 4. How are you getting the word out and letting everybody know about this, and doing that in a way that it is going to give you that long-term result that you're looking for? So that's huge. Everybody wants the audience. And then 5 is charisma. And I say that because, 1, I think doing all of this stuff and doing it consistently and focusing on all of those other principles of storytelling and quality content and all of that stuff, it's going to build your confidence, which is going to lead to charisma. It's just one of those things that you can get. I mean, there's a level, right? Not everybody naturally has charisma, but you can build it over time. And sometimes I think people are successful, and there's a lane to be successful without charisma. Clearly you want charisma, but depending on what your show is about or the audience that you're trying to build, you might not really need it. You might just be so informational and so good at letting people understand what's going on that that's all it takes. Like you're not a big personality, and
Yeah.
on some level that's a charm. So I think charisma is great. If you have it, clearly it's use it, but I think with everything else, that's all more important for great content, and charisma is just a factor to boost those things.
Love it. No, you're right. Now you were saying about charisma, and I was thinking Lex Friedman. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He had the guy is so boring. yet he has he's interviewing world leaders. He's like a robot. And I have nothing against Lex, by the way. It's just he has no personality, and yet he's in a way made it in the podcast world. So yeah, definitely charisma, speaks for itself, is number 5.
Right. It's
And
really
and
funny.
and also I like how you said about the content production and how it doesn't matter that much, because everyone that is going viral on TikTok is just them filming themselves with the crop that TikTok does, the shitty crop. Is like, it doesn't matter. Especially with Gen Z, it's like they don't want these perfectly curated shots. Like, yeah, if you're filming Dune or you're doing a movie, but when you're filming yourself, ideas, vlogging, it doesn't really matter as much. So yeah.
No, if anything, people crave it. Like they actually enjoy the lack of it,
It's more
because
authentic.
it's more authentic. It's more relatable. It's like, hey, I can't afford a nice camera, so that makes me feel like them. It's
Yep.
it's relatable. So there's a lot of
Relatable.
value in that. Yeah.
Okay, let's say that you make it. You got whatever 300K, a million followers on YouTube, and now you are getting some AdSense money, but as it's not much, and you realize that the money that you were promised by the podcast gods is shit. You need a business behind this, a business channel, which is something you help people, as you said already. What are the best business models for podcasters at the moment, and how can people integrate the business with the podcast audience?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is reading your audience and what they actually want, because there's so many creative ways to go about it, right? And I think that is the beauty and the tragedy of podcasting, is like it is such a big world. There's so many formats, there's so many styles. You can do pretty much anything you want, however you want. It's just what's the right way that works for you and actually connects with people. So it's hard to say on like a broad level, but for some people it might be that doing events is a totally natural thing. Let's say you talk about fashion. You're a fashion podcast, and so you're talking about all these new things that are coming out and whatever, and you're doing that in your city. You're in New York. Great. Run a small fashion show with local brands and get your audience to come out and be a part of that. Like maybe that if that's something you can execute and you've got experience with that, great. Like go and do that. Other people, it might make sense to run a bar crawl and partner with somebody and do that. Or you've got premium episodes where, hey, this is the conversation. This is the 40-minute version that I post, and that's normally what it is. But if you want the extended conversation where I also ask about A, B, and C, that's only on Patreon. And then you get things where people are using the premium for coaching. So, hey, I'm great at this thing. Here's the show. And then if you want to, and this is what I do, like with business owners, you're selling coaching services, right? Like I'm a business coach. I work with executives to help them do A, B, and C. Great. So that's how you're monetizing. So it's a direct business thing that you're tying in, which a lot of shows don't do from the jump, believe it or not. Like they will start a show and have a business, but it almost feels like a side project. They're not mentioning the business and the branding. They're not necessarily talking about exactly what they do, and they're not driving people to actually go to the business that they've got and sign up for the services they have. So like that's from the direct side, that's it. But yeah, you got to figure out what that is, and part of it's within the means of things that you can actually execute and you think that people want. And what I would say, just to take it a step further, is to start small with it, because what happens is people tend to overcommit. And it's, hey, I'm going to buy 500 t-shirts and we're going to print all these t-shirts and we're going to sell all these shirts for $50 a piece. And it's like, you haven't sold a single t-shirt yet. Why are you buying 500? You know what I mean? Like, or why aren't you doing this in some way where it's on demand printing? And, so like or if you're running an event, do an event that, hey, if you can get 10 people to a bar, start there. Then, hey, if you can get 50 people to a bar, now you've got a big event. Like so that's the kind of stuff is getting a feel, taking risks, seeing what works, what people are interested in, and just giving them more of that. And as much as you can have that connected to what you're doing with the show, that's the goal.
Yeah, right. And then you have that proof of that evidence that you if you make it, if you make an event with 10 people, then when you go to the bigger event, you can be like, hey, look, I organized an event and 10 people showed up. Can I book your place for 50? And then you get some advertisement from this, you're going to buy whatever the drink. So yeah, you have also that evidence. So the advice of starting slow and stepping up as you go makes absolute sense. What is the number one thing people need the most help with in podcasting?
Whew, strategy. Strategy is number 1 through 10. They don't have a clear goal of what they want the show to do a lot of times, and exactly who they're talking to, and exactly the kinds of conversations that they should be having on the show. I think that's one of the big problems, because everybody gets in. I see this a lot in the business space through just general entrepreneurship shows, and they want to just do like just a backstory, right? Which I love that, by the way, when you opened this show, we didn't talk about my background for 15 minutes. It wasn't an interview about that. It was, hey, let's talk about podcasting. Let's get to the point. Like, we've got very specific shit to get into, and we're going to solve it. And that's all we've done. Like, that's awesome. But some people, they just kind of meander. And like I was saying a couple minutes ago, they don't even have the show connected to their business up front, because they had no idea of what the goal was. They just knew that podcasting was good and they should get out there, but they didn't think, oh, well, I'm doing the show because I want to sell more of my coaching services, or I'm trying to sell more of this product, and that's why I'm talking about these things to this audience. So strategy is everything. And same thing for the entertainment shows. I mean, if you want to do stuff to build attention, okay, but what makes you different, and how are you running the show day in and day out, where your conversations, like, I think the true level of mastery is so subtle. And what happens is people can't define it, but they will be able to. They'll know that it's different, and they'll stick around if you've got it. And if you don't have it, they will skip you, and they won't be able to say why, but they'll be able to pick it up pretty quick. And so having that thing up front that makes you stand out, that builds that connection, that shows I'm different than the competition, that this thing is real, it's got power behind it, and you are going to get true value out of it, in terms of this is going to be a really entertaining conversation, or I'm going to give you so much goddamn information, you're going to be so educated, you can't wait to believe how educated you are. And that's what's going to get people to stick around. So yeah, like that is a strategy play. I mean, you're making this content, you want to get this message out. What platforms is it going on? How are you doing that in the most effective way so that it's consistent, you're not stressed out? How are you adapting as you go, because trends change, you try stuff and it doesn't work? Like, yeah, it's strategy, man. It's just it's everything for a show.
Just like a business. It is
100%.
just like a business.
100%.
Because podcasting is the future. Like, definitely. Where do you see actually podcasting going? Because I think in 2 generations, legacy media will not exist. There will be only podcasts. Some will be state affiliated, where governments will issue official statements, similar to X now. Propaganda will move from the TV to podcast and online content, of which podcast, I think, will be the most indoctrinating due to the long form and the free association style. So where do you see podcasting? What is it becoming?
Yeah, I think it's evolving, just because there's so many people doing it, and to some degree, the fact that they're doing it without the guidance leads to innovation at times, right? Like, as much as it causes most people to fail, it also leads to very unexpected aha moments where things take off. And one of the things that selfishly, like on a very personal level, I would love to see more of, and I don't think people do quite enough, is almost like guides. Like, I would say, okay, let's say you're going to buy a house, right? And it's, okay, you're going to work with me to buy this house. Here is a 10-episode series that I have exclusively. There's no other episodes. There's no plan to do more. It's just these 10. But it's everything that we're going to do in this process. These are the different things that you should be handling on your end as we're at this stage. Here's what I'll be handling on mine. And like, guiding people through in a very specific way.
That's awesome.
Right? Like, how do you do that kind of stuff? How do people do more of that? So I think that's something that could be really great, and would just love to build some stuff like that. On the other side of it is more internal communication. So for companies that are huge, to be able to connect with their managers, for example, and say, hey, everybody, we're making these changes to these systems. Here's why we're going to be doing it. Here's how we're going to be doing it. These are the timelines. And instead of having meetings all the time where everybody has to block off their schedule and it's at this specific time, especially if you're national, international, all these different time zones, just do a podcast. Like, just do the whole thing in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, give people what they need, let them listen to it on their own time by a certain deadline, and see where it goes. Like, I think there's real room for that, but people have just been shy to take that leap, or they haven't thought of it, or I don't know. But I think there's a lot of ways to just simplify day-to-day communication in a very practical way with podcasting.
I love the first thing that you said with the house. That could add so much value to so many 18-year-olds or 25-year-olds that have no education from school, obviously, but also from not the parents of how do I find a job? How do I buy a house? How do I you can do an episode, you can do something like, come join me in the 6-month journey of we have this guy who just opened a business, and we're gonna follow him with every single detail of how do we open a business. And that could be education in and of itself. That could be a master in business just by itself, and you can make it in a podcast format. You can talk with that guy who just opened the business, and you can follow him. Then have podcast, have vlogging. Yeah, follow him. You know where he goes, and he signs this in the government, and he makes the deal. That would be an amazing concept.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff like that I think is very simple and practical and easy enough to do. But everybody, when they think about podcasts now, it always is this show, this ongoing thing. It's this big entertainment vehicle, you know? So trying to tear it apart a little bit and just use the medium in more specific ways, I think is everything. Like that's the beauty of podcasting. You can shape it however you want. There's no rules. So do whatever you think is interesting.
And why do you think podcasts have the social currency and trust that they have? What is it that made them stand out from traditional forms of media? People trust Joe Rogan more than CNN and the news. He was literally the deciding factor that made Trump get elected. So where does this come from, you think?
Yeah, so it's part of it's the lack of limitations. I mean, just think of television, for example. You have FCC regulations. You've got all the commercial breaks that you need to work in. You're only doing a show for 30 minutes or an hour, and then you're cycling that over to somebody else who, odds are, they're repeating the same stuff with more or less the same opinions, and they're not moving the ball in any way. So to have a space where, hey, I'm going to sit with this one person for 3 hours, and we're going to have the deepest conversation that we can possibly have, and it's something that for most people, you'll never get that opportunity elsewhere. Like, when are you going to have the opportunity to sit down with some of the biggest people, biggest names, biggest builders on the planet and have them talk about in depth all of their thought processes and how certain things came to be and what they see as their vision for the future? Like, it's just such an unbelievable opportunity. And so that's what the allure of it is. That's the beauty. Like, that's the magnetism of podcasting is I can get all of these conversations that aren't, in a sense, they're not good television, because television wants that big, broad audience, right? It's an entertainment vehicle. They're based on ratings. So when that's all they care about is, are we selling advertisements for a good enough rate because we have enough people watching, then it's not built for education in that same way. It's not built for long form content to take those risks. They haven't done it. And they could. I mean, there's no reason that theoretically a TV station couldn't put Joe Rogan on and turn a 3-hour episode into a 5-hour with ads podcast television episode. You know what I mean? Like, you could do it, but they just don't want to adapt either. So the freedom of podcasting and the fact that it's not held by all of those regulations and just outdated ways of thinking, it's allowed it to take off, and that's why it keeps growing.
And if you look at the state of the internet, there is more long form that has ever been. People consume 3-hour podcasts on one go. But on the other side, there's also infinite short form content. People doom scrolling 30-second videos endlessly. So we have been captivated by this online world in unimaginable before ways. And I understand how the short form hijacks your dopamine. But where do you think the appeal to invest 3 or 4 hours in one go for a podcast comes from?
Yeah, I think it's just curiosity, right? People want to know more. Like, the human condition is you can't know everything. right? There's just too much going on and too many things in too many places of the world. You can only have so much perspective. There's only so much time. Like you just can't
Yeah.
know it all. And so to get these windows where you can get, super in-depth stories, like for the true crime people. I mean, if you get 10 episodes that really detail everything that goes into figuring out a certain murderer and all the deadlines and dead ends, and you know what I mean? Just like understanding that entire process in detail, talking to people that were a part of that case, getting real-time information from the detectives or the private investigator, and following that along the way. I mean, that's pretty amazing, and it's real, and you just
Yeah.
don't get it anywhere. So like that is so satisfying because it's depth that, again, you just can't get it anywhere else. So like experiencing that, short form can't do it, 30 minutes can't do it. You get documentary series occasionally, so they can do it, but it's way more expensive to do it that way when you've got all this video and all the production that goes into it, and podcasts just skip right through that. So it's way more affordable and it's more flexible. I mean, who's got, especially like people have kids, who's got 10 hours to sit in front of a television, and how long is it going to take them to get to those 10 hours versus,
Yeah.
hey, I am folding laundry, I'm cooking dinner, I'm in the
Really close.
car. Like it's just, it gives you everything that you want, and there's no reason that you can't take the time to access it.
True. True. Who is your favorite podcaster and why?
Conan O'Brien. I love Conan O'Brien. That is my guy.
Oh, Conan. Okay.
Yeah.
Why so?
Love him. So a couple of things for me. I mean, one, I've always been a fan of his. So just when he had the late night show way back in the 90s, and I watched all of that. I'm into his television show, Conan Must Go. Like I'm just a diehard fan of the guy. I love his humor. I love his personality. I think he's a genuinely good person. Like the way that people in the community of comedians talk about him. He just won the Mark Twain Prize for comedy. Like he is a legend, and he's well respected by these people. But so he's a role model that way. But the other side of it too is he's been able to do this, be a high level entertainer for like 30 years. And over that time, he's adapted mediums. And so he's got a lot of range, and he knows how to interview people well. So when he gets on these, like when he's running his show, he can take one person who, they don't have a whole lot of depth to them. Like they're a big bubbly personality, but you're not going to like go into deep physics with this person. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he knows that, and he can play around, and he can make it an entertaining interview. But for the other kinds of people who they have all of this depth and gravity and thought behind them, he knows that, and he knows how to dive in there and get to those conversations. But at the same time, he can crack a joke or two to keep it moving, to make it entertaining. Like he knows, he's a master of interviewing. And to see that so consistently, and for him to do that with, comedians and things that I love, there's just nothing else I could ask for. So I think he is brilliant. I think he understands just media in general as much as anybody. And I listen to his show all the time.
Awesome. Yeah, you don't become who he is just by accident, really. So there's a reason he's that famous.
Right? I mean, he's done everything. Like he wrote for The Simpsons. He wrote for SNL. He had that late night show. He's done documentaries. He's done live events where he's been on the road and been on tour. He's got a travel show. Like it's just he's got a full station now on Sirius XM. Like he's got everything. He's done everything.
And he's very likable. Like when he smiles, like he's like, you can't be. Why would you hate this guy? He has a very likable personality. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think he's the total package.
Nice. How about this AI thing? There has been a flux of AI podcasts apparently, or there is going to be, but nothing has appeared on my feed personally. Just every now and then there is this fear-mongering that 99% of podcasts are going to be AI, and it's going to be AI bots listening to AI. How long do you think do we have until that happens, if it ever is going to happen? And do you think people will actually listen to AI talking in podcasts with, very realistic images of people talking, or are they going to still opt in for real humans?
Yeah, I mean, AI shows of people watching it and it being AI content, it's definitely going to happen soon where something really breaks through and makes an impact. It has to. Because part of it is, I think the quality is getting too good. Just linguistically. Yeah. I mean, listen to Notebook LM and the podcast that it makes. I mean, it's it's incredible in terms of the quality. So to be at that level already, the amount of podcasts that you can train on, and the fact that they're so
Mm,
available, I mean, yeah, like podcasts are going to get incredibly good incredibly quickly, and it just comes down to what the use is. Because I think, like I said, talking about especially things with process, like, hey, I'm buying a house and or you're, like, if you're buying a house and I'm a real estate agent and here's all these steps of what we're going to do together and what this looks like, that could be an AI thing that gets done sooner rather than later. Makes a lot of sense. Doesn't cheapen anything or make people feel like they're lied to. But it's just delivered in a way that they're used to, can understand, and process the information. Like, that makes a lot of sense. So I think from that standpoint, informationally, you'll see a ton of AI podcasts because it doesn't cost anything to do and it's going to work.
uh-huh.
So that will be number one. But from the human element, I think part of it is, one, people are always going to want to podcast. They're always going to want to do these shows and have these experiences and build these relationships. And people are always going to want to support those people. So
Yeah,
they want community. Like, that's one of the hardest things. It's one of the biggest problems globally, right? Like, people are at home, they
true,
feel lonely, they don't have this opportunity to be a
true.
part of something. And so to say, hey, you're a fan of this podcast, and me too. Let's go to this live show and watch it. And like that does something to people. So they'll always want it. There's always going to be room for it. And I think those will generally, they will be the best shows that are out there. But
Mhm.
I mean, to say that there's not going to be a time where an AI podcast, like, everybody knows about it and has at least listened to it or seen a clip, that's going to be happening. Yeah. Pretty damn
Yeah.
soon.
And if you think about it, that AI will have the information, the whole information in the world to make. Will analyze human psychology, will analyze every recent event that has happened in the last whatever years, and it will give you exactly what you want to hear. And it's gonna be, it can be so captivating, but yeah, that's all it is though. As you said, you need the community. People need to feel the need to belong. That's why the modern world now, where we have been so atomized in our own bedrooms, that's why we have all these depression and anxiety and mental disorders. We're clinically online. We don't feel like we belong somewhere. And the moment we think of joining, oh, let me join. People join running clubs and never go running. People join book clubs and it's like, okay, I'm gonna read it at home. And it's like, but you need that community, as you just said.
It's everything. I mean, yeah, everybody wants human connection. It's natural. So
Mhm.
it's important. So yeah, to be able to provide that, I think, is huge, and why this will always be around and why it's such a fun thing to be a part of. Like, otherwise, I mean, me and you, do we ever have a conversation in our lives together if it's not for podcasting? Like, I have no idea. But now we've been able to sit and talk for an hour and like cover all of these different things, and that's very
Mhm.
cool. Like, that's what I love about this is you get to meet all of these people that you didn't know. You get to build relationships with them. And for me, it's always like, I don't usually guest on a show and then just disappear. Like, I'll tell you right now, I'll find you on LinkedIn. Like, let's connect. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
like, that's always what I do. But I'm always trying to keep tabs on people and maintain that conversation, keep it open, and be available. Because,
Nice.
like, I love having a good network. I love seeing what other people are up to, and being able to bring other people together that helps them. So yeah, podcasting is just a great way to do it.
Love it. Love it. There's a lot of advice about what to do out there from successful people. How about what not to do? Give me your top three what not to do as a beginner podcaster or content creator.
Yeah. So number one is, don't publish a podcast right away if you don't know if it's for you. So I mentioned that earlier, but I will say it again, is the number one thing. Like, do a couple episodes of the show, see if you
Uh-huh.
like it, get used to the workload. And then once you've done 4 of them and you know exactly what goes into, okay, I'm going to plan this episode, I'm going to record this episode, I'm going to edit this episode, I'm going to make clips, or I'm going to make a newsletter, I'm going to write the posts and schedule those posts. Like, know what that is before you do it. And if it
Hmm.
turns out you do 3 of them, you do 4 of them, you feel good about it, you think you can do it, you like it, your friends say it's solid, then yeah, go for it. Like, make this thing public, re-record episodes if you need to, because you've probably gotten better from episode 1 to episode 4. But now you're ready to go and do the show. So make sure you're ready before you commit. That's number one. Number two is really, and this is for me, like, I jumped into this of running a business with no business experience whatsoever. and it was a full leap. Like I basically quit my job in radio to go into podcasting full time.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was a dramatic move, and frankly it was a bad one. I mean, I did not have perspective of what it takes to run a business. And I would say, if you're looking to start a business, and that's part of the reason why you want to do all of this content, or you have a show that's doing well and you want to turn it into a business now because you have that following, talk with as many business people as you can. I mean, just get the opportunity. There's so much good information out there, great books, YouTube channels, people that you know, or people that are on LinkedIn and willing to listen. If you just shoot them a DM, or Instagram, shoot them a DM. Like, you learn as much as you can about the business element. It's only going to make you better. And, everybody wants to make money. So that's number two. And then number three is just from the standpoint of, don't beat yourself up too much. I'm a perfectionist, so I get into these things and I get frustrated at times, and I always want stuff to be better, and I'm critical of myself, and everybody in content creation does that, because the whole thing is, people tend to value all of it. Am I getting the downloads that I want, the downloads that I need? I didn't get enough likes on this. I'm a failure and nobody likes me. Like, that's not necessarily what it
Yeah.
is. There's so many things that go into being able to connect with people and making good posts and building the right relationships and building a brand. So don't destroy yourself right away, especially early on. I mean, just be willing to take those hits, but be mindful that you are going to get better because you're putting in the time, and just commit to that time. So instead of, giving up right away and destroying yourself, just take it as, hey, this is an opportunity for me to get better, because you will. And that's everything.
Yeah, on the last one, you said that don't beat yourself up, also because maybe this is not the thing for you to do. Maybe you're not meant to be in front of a camera. Maybe you're better as a number two behind writing. Maybe you are the guy who you should be editing these and take a big cut off whatever the percentage of their earnings. But yeah, perhaps just being in front of a camera maybe is not for you. Right.
Great point, by
Yeah.
the way. I think that's a huge one. I mean, because that's absolutely the truth, right? Hey, I spent all this time hosting, and it turns out that, I'm not the best host, but I'm a great producer. I can come up with great topics and great questions, and I can have an eye for the right kinds of people to bring on the show. Or I'm a great editor, and I know what a nice clip looks like and how it's going to get attention on TikTok. Like, yeah, I mean, if you're just looking to be around it and make great content, find the ways that you do it best, and failing, but accepting that it's just a way to reposition yourself rather than give up entirely. Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. Like, that is a huge point.
Nice. Lovely. Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
Being a good person, honestly. I just want to be somebody that's remembered for helping other people as much as I could to get the most out of themselves. I love to help. And I think just there's so much going on in the world. We're asked to do so many things day in and day out that are very hard things to do. I mean, you think about day to day, the number of things that you're getting hit on Instagram and stuff all the time. People want your attention. You're trying to build all of these relationships. You have a personal relationship at home with somebody that you want to have a marriage at some point, and have a partner and a family. You've got those commitments. You've got the rest of your family you want to take care of. You're trying to be great at your day-to-day job and this podcast that you're doing. Like, it just making it easier for people and putting them in a position to be more successful is something that genuinely makes me feel good. And like, that's why I do this, right? Like, I came from radio. I loved what it took to put on a good show. I'm always obsessed with those details. I know the work is so hard to do. So many people struggle and fail, like we've talked about extensively on this show. And I think if they just had the right opportunity to do it, it could actually help them and make their lives better. And like, to be able to do that as my day-to-day work now is a great feeling. Like, this is what I'm about. It's everything for me. And it allows me to do what I love doing, which is, just helping people and putting them in a better place. So for me to be able to if I died today and everybody said, he really did some great stuff for me. He made my life better. Like, he was as good as you could be as a person, and I respect the hell out of him for it. Like, that's all I'm looking for, man. I mean, that's really it for me.
Love it. Love it. Because in a way, you are changing the world one person at a time. And if you're having that impact on that one person, perhaps that is more than enough. You've done your part in a very grand way. I like it. I like it. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah, appreciate that.
All right, Vince, you've been fantastic. Thank you very much, man. Thanks
Hey,
for being on the show.
thanks for having me, man. This has been great. I've really enjoyed the time today.